Rising. This is the Straight Talk Morning Show on the Straight Talk Network. My name is Andre Hill, your host, and we have our co-host and engineer, our chairman of United Aboriginal American Republic. Y'all got to get with it because this is our only option. Terrence Lake, how you doing this morning, sir?
Grand Rising, everyone. I feel pretty good. Got a little sunny day, but it's on the cool side. But, it's a holiday weekend, so I'm going to get out somewhere near some water somewhere. But how's everyone doing?
Oh, it's summertime down here, so it's hot. I got one of my buddies up in Seattle. He says he was born and raised here. It's Africa hot down there.
Oh, wow, that's hot.
Well, Chairman, that's our weather report from Detroit. What else is going on up there other than the holiday weekend?
Well, next weekend, my grandson's doing a concert, and he's going to perform on the piano for an hour. Then we're going to have a dinner and a dinner dance. So that's going to be probably a 6-hour affair. Tickets are $40, per person. So far, got about maybe 60 people. I'm looking for at least 100. So, if I just get family to respond, everything will be great. But, family ain't like it used to be, boy.
Well, family is we got a little technical difficulty, but the engineer having me up hopefully in another minute. Family is always last to come on board, because they are so closely involved with you. And, so they are always the last one. There we go. Video went out on its own.
Listen, Straight Talk families, for their family, they know what's going on.
Which one?
Video, but
it's no.
I'm saying if it does it again.
Oh, just click. Okay. All right. Also, we have our co-host and engineer, Andre Hill Jr. What's going on, man?
Everything's good. We got it rolling. There's always some minor difficulties here and there, but one technicality ain't gonna stop the show.
Got that right.
Absolutely. All right, so we got a lot of stuff to cover here to cover. So let us go ahead and get started with this show. So as usual on Fridays, if you on Facebook and you friend me at Andre Hill Sr., you can get these posts on a regular basis. But here it goes. Good afternoon, family. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Straight Talk Network I can't read all of this, but it's got Dre Day in it. But that's our link to YouTube in case Facebook is blocking us. And now YouTube, they all don't join in with blocking us. But anyway, we still up and we still live. Or my Facebook page at Andre Hill Sr. What is the difference between Mongoloid Native Americans and Aboriginal Melanated Americans? The reason I'm saying Aboriginal Melanated Americans, I ran across some information explaining about using the term Black. And, I remember when James Brown came out, said loud, I'm Black and I'm proud,
Right.
And, it was a sense of identity, but I saw a psychological analysis of the subliminal message that's implanted in our brains, that Black is also related with death, and we are definitely not dead. They've been trying to eliminate us for quite some time, but we're still alive. So I'm getting away from using that term. We done been Black, we done been Negroes, colored folks, the other N word, everything but what our original nationality. And that was designed specifically to take away our rights and our knowledge of ourselves, that we've been here in the Americas thousands of years ago. So anyway, let me stay on point. So what is the difference between Mongoloid Native Americans and Aboriginal Melanated Americans? Also, oh boy, they really working today. Also, what Caucasian people know that Aboriginal melanated people don't know? To kill the root is to kill the disease. Be sure to tune in and be enlightened for continued clarity. For all you starseeds and you wearing people that is becoming conscious, read lucifersrevenge.net. Go to lucifersrevenge.net, order one of our books, and it will confirm everything that you knew from your previous life that's hidden in your spiritual DNA just need to be brought to the forefront. And when you are totally awakened, then you're going to join this collective of star seeds or conscious people to elevate the frequency on the planet so that we can rebuke, reject, convict, and evict this negative energy that's operating on our planet and return the planet to balance. Right now, if you look at the scales of right and wrong, negative energy is up now because it's right in the narrative. So we need to bring that scale back in balance where positive energy is ruling the roost and also write the narrative to a balanced society. That's our purpose. That's the chairman's purpose. That's Andre Hills Jr.'s purpose. That's why we do this show every Saturday to help bring your memory back.
Got that right.
Yeah. So, all right, let's deal with this first topic. Okay, I'm going to set it up and we'll let the chairman give his insight on it. And Andre Hill Jr., my son is surpassing me in historical and technical knowledge. So it is very critical. And you know, taking into consideration his generation really needs to hear this. So definitely you want to hear what he's got to say about this. But I'm going to give you my take. Okay, so the Mongoloid, so-called Native Americans who were given deals and I'm gonna always say the Catholic Church is behind all this. You know, even though the English, the Caucasians that came from England and Spain, you know, they were just used as puppets. But the Catholic Church was behind this. They sanctioned slavery. They sanctioned the murder of millions of melanated people. And they also devised a serious divide and conquer game based on skin complexion, as indicated in the Willie Lynch letter. And you know, it says turn the house Negroes against the field Negroes. And it also said take your sperm and create a variation of colors so you can divide the people up against each other. Oh yeah, we got an outside technician flipping my picture in and out. So the Mongoloid Native Americans, you know, you can tell them they have a reddish brown skin, but they got that coloring from when they migrated from Asia and they met up with the Aboriginals of the Americas, who were dark complexion melanated people. And so as they mixed, as they came from the West and mixed in to the East, that you can tell the different variations of the tribes as how the color code mixed. The further west you go, they may have been a little lighter, and this is just my assumption. And the further east you go, they were a little darker. And when we're going to have a map on our tribal site, which is uarnation.org, and it will be up so that you can try to trace your true lineage. You did not come, some of us did, but most of us was already here. We did not come on ships from Africa. We was already here. And that is the biggest lie and misconception and con game they ever win. So anyway, so my further take on it is that those Mongoloid Native Americans was slightly different. So the Catholic Church homed in on that and said, well, what we're going to do to keep them from to split their power is we're going to give them land and recognize them, even though Jefferson what? Oh, Hickory. Who was that? Junior from Tennessee. What was that president's name?
Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson. Even though through the Trail of Tears, he is believed that he got some blankets with a serious death virus and handed it to those Indians or Native Americans when they on their trails from Florida to Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, and sent them to Oklahoma. And he tried to murder them even on that way out. So you really can't trust these demons on no accord. But anyway, they cut a deal. As long as these Native Americans will send their children to their Catholic church to be indoctrinated and brainwashed and browbeaten into submission, they also created what you call reservations that they are still continuing to encroach upon today with pipelines and anything else that they want to do. So that old saying, the white man speak with forked tongue, is still alive. And we got a solution to that problem. You know, and we're going to talk about that later on. So the Aboriginal, in this next video coming up, was here, and they had superior architectural design and brickwork thousands of years ago. And all these Caucasians, via the Catholic Church, came in and destroyed, covered up, buried, did everything they can, just like in Egypt. They broke their noses and lips off to erase the Aboriginal, which means from the beginning, their images on the entire planet. So I'm gonna rest that here. Chairman, you got any ideas on the difference between the Aboriginal, the original humans, and the so-called Native Americans?
Well, my take is, like in my book, I say we all came from other solar systems to this solar system. And we, as Blacks, were put here first. And historical records prove that. Now, our Caucasian brothers were the last ones to come to the planet Earth, and they resided in Europe. Now, when you mention the Catholic religion, they knew that they came to planet Earth from another solar system. They knew this. And when it was Galileo, when he started studying the universe, the stars, he detected that the old saying was that the sun revolved around us. He found out that we revolve around the sun. When he made that statement in the public, the Catholic Church told him to denounce that theory or they were going to kill him. So he didn't want to die, so he denounced it. But he continued to write in his logs about our revolving around the sun. So they knew that they were different, which we all are to a degree, because you got different, groups of people on planet Earth. But they wanted to separate themselves from the rest because they didn't want people to know that they came from another solar system. They wanted everything to be, all right, originated from planet Earth. This is where we come from, Adam and Eve. And that's been discounted through different philosophy and different studies that, it was impossible for us all to come from Adam and Eve. So the difference between your Mongoloid and your Asiatic, Aboriginals is, the pigmentation. When you look at an Asian person, you can see that high yellowish texture. Where you look at your real Black person, you got a dark complexion, But inside, we're all the same because we all share the same spirit. But it's just something about the religious factor in the Catholic Church. They always want to put fear in people to control them. And if people don't recognize what's really going on today, they're spending trillions of dollars to go in space when they could take that money and create a heaven on earth right here on planet Earth and make it good for everybody. And then our extraterrestrial brothers that are out there observing us, they'll come and make peace with us because they're going to have to make peace with us, because the people on this planet that's got a lot of this firepower, they will blow a spaceship out of the air if it comes landing without their authority. Now, come on. And if you know your history, there have been some ships that have been blown out of the air. They turn up a certain frequency and cause space vehicles to crash. So, there is a difference, but basically, like I said, we're basically all the same. We were put on planet Earth to learn how to live in harmony with each other. And let's get it together, because our children are so great and they got so much to offer. But this fear tactic that we're using, you're scaring these poor children to death. So let's get it right and let's create this heavenly environment on earth. It's got to happen. And that's what we're all about. And I'll land that plane.
Hey, gentlemen, there you go. Hey, so that's the beauty of our Aboriginal nation. We have elders. We have wisdom from all different perspectives. We don't have a dictatorship or a king like what Trump want to be. I'm listed as a chief, but we all chiefs. And I'm just a servant. And when we make a decision, we present it to the whole body, true democratic process, a true democratic process for everybody to weigh in and make their decisions. And we're looking for more people from our generation. You were born in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. You are elders now. And we need your wisdom, your experience. You don't have to know everything we know. We stay in our lane, you stay in your lane. But anyway, let's get Andre Jr. I know he's got a very unique perspective of the native versus the melanated Aboriginals.
Pretty much what y'all was saying is true, and I'll just give a little more detailed context. So what we call the Native American or the Red Indian, with the phenotype of the logo of the redskin, or
pigmentation,
right? That as well. But the modern and most popular logo, that's what we call the Mongoloid Native American. And then when you even break down the actual terminology of Native, they give you an understanding of what they truly are as well. Native essentially means that you were born in a place and of a place as of recent, but doesn't necessarily mean you were the original people there. Meaning I can be, let's say, raised in Chicago, although I was born in DC, but I'd be a Chicago native, right? I'd be a Chicago native. So interestingly enough, by some level of definition, tells you quite who they are. Now, the other thing is, in school growing up, we were taught that the Native Americans came out of Asia by crossing the Bering Strait up there by Alaska when it was a land bridge 20,000 years ago. That's what they taught us in school. That's what they teach y'all.
They didn't teach us that.
They didn't teach us that? Okay.
No.
Okay, well, so that's interesting that they didn't teach y'all that.
Nope.
Because that means they recently made that up. That's what that means. If they didn't teach you that back in the 70s.
In the 60s and the 70s.
That means they recently came up with that information. But that's what they told us in school. And me going to school in the 90s, in the very early 2000s. Yeah, I graduated in 2004 from high school. So now that's what the narrative is. But the actual true history we can find in Mexico, where the original quote unquote misnomer named Olmec civilization was, which is really the Amaru Shi or the Amaru Khans. You got a lot of different names for them now. But when you go into the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, or by Mexico, and you go into what they call the Temple of Warriors. There's a lot of pyramids down there. There's about just as many pyramids there as it is in Kemet in Africa. All right, there's a lot of pyramids down there. Slightly different design, but nonetheless still pyramids. But you go to the Temple of Warriors. I think it's called the in Chichen Itza.
Yes.
Y'all can go look this up, family who out there, everybody listening. But look at just Google paintings on the walls of the Temple of Warriors. And what you're going to see is you're going to see the depictions of very dark-skinned Aboriginal Americans, what they really look like. All right. And what you're going to see is those were the predecessors to the Mayans. But then you take a look at the Mayans, and you're like, they don't quite look like they predecessors. Not exactly. Not as dark. And even their descendants, their alleged descendants today, don't match the phenotype. All right. But what you will also see on these walls is depictions of what we African-looking Aboriginals and very elaborate cultural dress.
Yes.
The warriors. It's the reason I call it Temple of Warriors, because a lot of the depictions are showing the warriors of the Aboriginal tribes apprehending foreigners. And what do these foreigners look like? They look like who we call Native Americans. They look like who we call Caucasians. That's what they look like. You say, again, don't take my word for it. Go look it up. Go look it up. And when you do some research or some due diligence into it, if you can get some primary sources, in other words, some credible sources, I should say, some credible sources, you'll realize that those events didn't happen nowhere near 20,000 years ago. In other words, what it looks like were two things, either one or two things will happen. We were either importing Asians into the Americas, or they were showing up and we were apprehending them because they were trespassing. One of the two, or a combination of the both. That's what's depicted down there. And interestingly enough, Mexico just made a strong acknowledgement to their quote unquote Afro-Indigenous population. In other words, Mexico been knew what time it was. Why? Because they hold the pyramids down there and they've been looking there. You can't go in there and take pictures. Matter of fact, I don't think you can go in there at all. I don't think you can go into these pyramids and actually see what's on the walls. I'm not mad at them because, because if you let too many people go in there, they're going to go in there and vandalize and do the same stuff that they did in Kemet. Start painting over stuff. And not only did they blow off noses in Kemet, they allowed Arabs to go in there and just start completely repainting everything to lighten up the skin tone of some depictions of the Africans there, right? So Mexico said, "No, y'all ain't gonna do that over here." Now this is a it's a kept secret, but we gonna hold on to it as our intellectual property to some extent, and that they held it and they've preserved it, but it is there. So yeah, the difference between, well, hold on, I'm not done. Hang on. What we got? 24 minutes. All right, we almost at halftime. I'm gonna land this plane here. Although those depictions are there, we still have to start doing more due diligence into the actual social, political collaboration and interaction between Mongoloids and Aboriginal Americans, because it may not have always been a war between us. And you mentioned the conquistadors before. No, even though they were Spaniards, they were Roman Catholics. That's exactly what they were. They were Roman Catholics. And now, mind you, we put this in Lucifer's Revenge, the book, where the source of the motivation behind the Roman Catholic Church came from. It came from the Anunnakis out of Sumer. That's where that came from. That's how that is the source of Roman Catholic spirituality. It's technically Mesopotamia. All right. So they brought that from all the way over there to all the way over here and infiltrated, raped, pillaged, killed a lot of our Mongoloid family, right? I extended Mongoloid family. So, you know, it's some deep, of course, history is expansive. So, you know, and it's a lot to cover, but, you know, that's the gist of a very brief gist of, you know, what was going on over here in the Americas, who was here, why they were here, and who came in and invaded at what times. I'll really landed on this. The depictions of us Aboriginals apprehending foreigners and or invaders, again, that's not 20,000 years ago. That's more like 1,500 years ago, max. So that means a lot of quote unquote Native Americans ain't been here that long. They ain't been here that long, right? And there's a reckoning between our tribes and their tribes that we're gonna have to do. The truth's gonna have to come out, and we're gonna have to come to a meeting of the minds and move forward. Because prior to a lot of invasions, we weren't. I'm assuming we weren't as much at war before the divide and conquering started to happen. In this country, in the Americas, we've always had a pretty good mix of Mongoloids and Aboriginals. So yeah, so I'm gonna land at that because I know we get to the half mark hour. I know we got a few videos we want to share as well.
Yeah. So let's bring up that video. So while you're setting that up, we use these videos because we know that the generations behind us don't have a lot of faith, even in the melanated elders, like me and the chairman, you know, and my son is becoming an elder because he'll be 40 years old this year. And so, so we bring in some additional or other outside resources to give you a good confirmation to help get your mind, trust is earned, is not given. And we want to build that trust, but we bring in outside information to help back up or validate what we're saying. You ready to shoot?
Yes, please.
Let it roll.
Most of the slaves were descendants of Aboriginal Indians that had been in the Americas for probably 10,000 years or more. The 1892 World's Fair in Chicago has a white tea European scientist claiming this exact theory. First of all, the scientist, Mr. Smith, spent a year in Colorado and inside what we now call the Grand Canyon. He excavated. He brought mummies to the fair, and I quote, "They were better maintained and preserved than the mummies in Egypt," unquote. Then he goes into the point that all the scientists today recognize that the inhabitants of these dwellings predated the historic man and that their descendants were still with us. This is a European scientist, now in America, 1892. These facts established, let's take a look at what earlier writers who had traveled to America, usually as missionaries, wrote about their experiences with the Aboriginal Indians. So you might ask, well, what happened to them? Well, first of all, many of them, millions of them are still here, and they've been reclassified as Negroes and African Americans who were brought over in the slave trade from Africa. Let's take a look at this book written in 1791. This was a missionary involved with more northern Mississippian Indians would have been up against the Great Lakes. And he discusses how early on, like way back, 1400s, 1500s, the intermarriage begins between Europeans, who most of them were dark-skinned or many of them were Moors, but they begin to intermarry with the Indians. And then what it says is, like, when the English would defeat the French in their wars, they would enslave the Indians that were fighting on the side of the French. Now, what did that mean? Here's what you need to understand. When the English would beat the French or the French would beat the English, they were both using Aboriginal Indians as the muscle, as the fighters. So if the English beat the French, they would simply they wouldn't take them anywhere, they would just enslave the Aboriginals in place in the villages that they already lived in the towns they already built, and on the farmland that they were already producing on for thousands of years. They didn't move them anywhere. This 1791 writer goes on to say that at that point in the 1790s, he makes the case that most of your Indians in America are actually mixed European. Now, I think he's way off there. He's talking about your elite, and that's where you have the formation of these Native American tribes or the takeover of Aboriginal tribes by these mixed Native American elite. Very, very critical to always distinguish between the elite and the masses. Important to emphasize that this was what I call enslavement in place. In other words, your town, your region of a tribe lost battles, and you just started working for the winners. You did the same work, only now you had to provide 10 or 20% of the agricultural production to them, to the so-called masters. And believe me, this was a very normal practice for thousands of years. So, with this understanding, what was going on in the southeastern United States at the time of the Civil War makes a lot more sense. They simply renamed them and relabeled them as Negroes and then African Americans and blacks as the new regime took over. Most of that relabeling occurs after the Civil War. It's a takeover after the Civil War. And this is the social and economic system that Americans live with today. Handsome history out.
Okay. So there are several points there that I want to pick out, and then I want to pass the ball on to the rest of the staff here. So that kills the ship scenario. They were already here. So when these different Caucasian groups came over and started wars against each other, like he said, they employed the local Aboriginals to help fight these wars by conning them with whatever they did to get them to get behind the bullcrap. And that helps expose the fact that we were all brought over here on ships. And then the reclassification of Negroes is to take away your nationality. It takes away your power. That's why I'm backing up off using black, when you black, colored person, Negroes, or any other slangs, it gives you no nationality. It gives you no power of authority, no collector. It strips you of your inheritance because these demons wanted to take your land. They don't want you to know that it's your land. So, they implemented that program. So, hey, Chairman, you got any ideas on that? Your verification on the no ships, we was here?
Well, like you say, historically, blacks circumvented the whole planet, but they chose Africa because it was the best area on the planet. And when our Caucasian brothers came from Europe to North America, they knew it was a Pacific and a Atlantic Ocean, but they wanted that strategic spot for their stronghold, just in case there were other civilizations coming in to gain land. That's all historically known.
All right.
You feel me?
Hey, we getting it out there. Hey, Junior, what's your take on the no ships and what this man is saying?
So yeah, it's becoming more and more notable that the transatlantic slave trade was really fabricated and really exaggerated. Now, let me be clear though. There were some Africans that were brought via Atlantic slave trade, but nowhere near as many as was reported. Nowhere near as many as was reported. I mean, and this is what I always implore that our people do, because we don't care about nobody outside of our opinion as far as what happened to us, what our history is, what our identity is. Don't worry about other people's opinions unless they're reporting some information like this Caucasian boy we just shared the video of. Everybody else's opinion doesn't matter. Now, when we think about the slave trade from a non-emotional standpoint, that's the main thing we have to do first. It's really difficult to look at slavery and transatlantic slave trade from a non-emotional standpoint, especially as Black people, because we extra emotional. You feel me? We very sensational, right? And we've been known to be that way. I mean, it's a part of our makeup. I mean, it's not a fault, but it's been used against us, right? To sell us a narrative that would evoke our emotions and get us to buy into it for generations. Now, mind you, let's say roots. Let me ask y'all this. Did y'all learn about the slave trade in high school?
No, I don't.
Not really.
You learned something, Chairman?
Very little.
See what I'm saying?
You know, very little.
Okay, so now the slave trade was, let's say when y'all was in school, it was only, it allegedly ended just 100 years ago. You feel what I'm saying? It's relatively still fresh information that was allegedly very intricately logged, but they didn't teach y'all about it. Interesting. So, again, I implore all of our people to look at that concept of the transatlantic slave trade, not from an emotional perspective. Look at it from a tactical and business perspective. First, do that. Take your feelings out of it. Look at it from a tactical and business perspective. Start running those numbers. And you tell me if it makes sense. Would you run an operation like that? In other words, would you run an operation, especially at the time, we're transversing the Atlantic Ocean at that time with the type of technology and ships that they had? In other words, think about the turnover. In other words, how if it's just say you shipping cows from Africa to America, how many cows can you fit on a ship and feed them and give them water for months? And also go even further. Go look up blueprints for slave ships. I'll look them up. I've been in construction all my life. I know how to read a site plan very well. Know how to read one very well. You start looking at it and it still don't make any logical sense. Because you'll look at this blueprint and you'll say, because they got a few of them out here. I've seen like a maximum of 3 official ones. The rest of them is some bullshit, right? You'll start looking at these ships and you'll be like, okay, I see where the slave quarters are, but where are the captain's quarters? Where are the quarters for the food? Where are the quarters for clean water? So in other words, y'all were picking up 600 potential Africans and shipping them across the Atlantic and probably losing 500 to 550 of them. Did it actually make good business sense for you to do that? Or would it make more sense to just go get some Black people right where they at? What sense would it make? And then go even further. Start asking the questions, who financed those operations? Because they would have the records on that. They got the records on that. So again, we could go into that, but that's a whole nother show.
Absolutely.
All on its own. But again, I just implore you, my people in particular, look at that whole operation non-emotionally. And also too, realize and remember that psychological warfare that's the first line of defense. Psychological warfare is the first line of defense. It makes good stratagem for you to convince generations of a people of what their beginning is, or what their past, or what their history is. Because if you get a good control of their past, you can kind of direct them into their future. All right, you can direct them into their future. And so even today, we got a lot of our own people talking about, we started off as slaves. We started off as slaves. We started off, prior to the conscious movement. That's what most Black people, thinking we were. We came from slaves and ain't got no understanding of what we were doing before that. Again, that strips you of your birthright, strips you of your identity, strips you of your spiritual affinity, strips you of your entire sense of purpose. And that is one of the most long-standing war tactics in history, especially by Europeans. And why is it one of their most valuable tactics? Because it was done to them many times. Many times. All right. So, all right, I'll land at that. I know all
right. So let's bring all this in perspective. Why are we doing this? The awakening process, when you've been asleep or you're doped up on heroin for a long time, you're a little groggy, insecure, and your spiritual self-esteem is at an all-time low. So as you wake up from this psychological drug you've been on, what we're advocating now, to bring it all into perspective, if you have dark melanin in your skin, you are an Aboriginal, which means you are the original human that the Supreme Being created to be on the surface of this planet. And at some point, when you reach your teenage years as a species, you start smelling yourself. So the Supreme Being said, okay, it's time for this child to get an ass whooping. So the Supreme Being allowed these entities, low frequency entities, to come to our planet and test us and challenge us, whoop our ass, to the farthest extent. Now the Supreme Being, knowing that your body's disposable, but the soul lives forever. So you're supposed to be learning a lesson from how you got to this point where you didn't have to apply the rules of balance from the universe, which means you start lying and cheating on your fellow brothers, fellow melanated people, start doing all these crazy jinky things to each other. And so the Supreme Being opened a portal for this demon to come in and test your ass. And that's where we are right now. Every civilization in the universe goes through this before they reach a high frequency and establish themselves as a part of the Galactic Council, a collective of civilized species. All right, so to you melanated people, so what we're doing is explaining to you who you are and how you're going to reclaim your nationality and take charge of your planet. Otherwise, these idiots that's in the White House and over in Israel, murdering all these children and doing all these hideous things and passing these laws to continue to suppress the true history of melanated people, they're going to keep doing it until you join a collective to say, no, we don't want this bull crap no more. It's simple. Now, I notice how everybody, here in the States are getting behind Burkina Faso, Ibrahim. I applaud that brother. I'm getting behind him too. But you have some leaders right here on this panel, right here in the Americas, that's doing the same thing. But we're not getting the press. Guess why? Because this is the belly of the beast. The beast has consumed us and we're in the belly, but we're in the inside and we're going to cut our way out of this beast. But the way we cut our way out of it is, first and foremost, all you elders from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, we got hoodwinked and bamboozled. So shake it and come join this movement. Because when you join, don't care about how many degrees you got, or you Kappa Alpha and AK and all that crap. those were all divisive means to keep you working against each other. We need to do like them other African nations are waking up to do, and so we can join them and elevate the frequency to evict this low frequency being that was allowed to come here and test us. It's simple. So this is what happens. You got to pay close attention to what I'm about to say. When you continue to be complicit to all of this demonic activity, your soul diminishes and your privilege to have a beautiful melanated body is taken away. And that's why you are now susceptible of coming back as a Caucasian. Yeah. Okay. And I'm guilty too. I look in the mirror, I'm going, man, what did I do? Because I ain't as dark chocolate as the original humans. So I'm definitely working on getting my Superman, if I had to come back to this realm, my superhuman dark melanated body, because it's a beautiful thing. And our women are, the dark-skinned, beautiful melanated women are a beautiful thing. But they've been ostracized and beat down so hard, so long, they're afraid to come out in the open now. Well, don't be afraid. Come join UAAR Nation and get with us, because we understand that melanin in your skin is power. And we have a plan to resurrect this thing. Now, there are Caucasian people that are waking up too, and they realize that I'm in this jacked up body. And I was watching the tape from this young Caucasian woman who plays in the WNBA, and she said, look, I'm Caucasian, and I'm getting this press, but the true pioneers of the WNBA, the Black women, and don't get half the press I get, and I'm nowhere on the level of these superior athletes. So she's working on her beautiful melanated body in the next life. And that's what you other Caucasians do. You know, a lot of you don't realize that the Greys is a biological robot, and they come here and they perform services. But you are, if you're in a Caucasian body, you are an advanced biological robot, because your soul has diminished so much. You know, you have to submit to this bullshit of white supremacy, murder, killing, raping, stealing, lying, and cheating to keep the playing field level. I hope that's making sense. If it ain't making sense, you know, y'all can go to our website and send me a personal email. My son's gonna give you that in a minute. And you know, I'll answer these questions for you. And you can go get lucifersrevenge.net. It's gonna put your mind. And you know what? All the support for Burkina Faso, you got people right here, right now. We should have sold 15 million copies of lucifersrevenge.net and the chairman's book, at least. You know what those monies will go to? They will go to building our own network, creating our own government, creating our own monetary funds, working with those African nations to reclaim our planet as the original humans and restore this planet to balance. I'm getting too excited. Hey, Chairman. Well, we got another video. How much time we got? 10 minutes. Yeah. You want to play that video? And that's so we segue into the statement. What Caucasian people know that Aboriginal melanated people don't know? To kill the root is to kill the disease. And so we're explaining, I'm trying to explain in plain common sense, layman's term, why the Caucasian factor exists and why it is no longer needed. It's done a very good job at dividing and conquer us. And this video is going to give you a little insight to what the Caucasian people know and what they're doing to melanated people and why they're doing it. Go ahead, man.
Genetically engineered in 1974 by the World Health Organization. Dr. Douglas believed that it was a cold-blooded attempt to create a killer virus, which was then used in a successful experiment in Africa. Others have claimed that it was created by the CIA or the KGB as a means to reduce world population. Conspiracy theory: the AIDS virus was created in a laboratory. Based on the theories of Dr. William Campbell Douglas, many believe that HIV was genetically engineered in 1974 by the World Health Organization. Dr. Douglas believed that it was a cold-blooded attempt to create a killer virus which was then used in a successful experiment in Africa. Others have claimed that it was created by the CIA or the KGB as a means to reduce world population. Conspiracy.
Okay. All right. So we got two more videos, but we're going to be very brief with it. So what we're doing is setting up this panel to understand that the creation of these Caucasian bodies by the low frequency entity that came to planet Earth to test us, it was to eliminate the Aboriginals, the original humans that was born and created to live on this surface. So the revenge or the agenda of these entities that were allowed to come here, they want to exterminate completely Aboriginal people and create an artificial environment for a biological biological AI, which is the Caucasian bodies. But the difference between these bodies is that there are diminished souls operating these bodies. And some of them are waking up, just like the young lady who received this award and admitted that this ain't right. You giving me too much praise. The praise need to go to these melanated women. Hey, so you got another video, right?
Indeed.
Okay, go ahead and play.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We spend the rest of the hour with award-winning journalist and author Naomi Klein. She has a major new piece out, co-authored with Astra Taylor for The Guardian newspaper. It's headlined, The Rise of End Times Fascism. It looks at the apocalyptic fervor of the far right. In it, they write, quote, "The most powerful people in the world are preparing for the end of the world, and they themselves are frenetically accelerating. That is not so far away from the more mass market vision of fortress nations that's gripped the far right globally, from Italy to Israel, Australia to the United States. In a time of ceaseless peril, openly supremacist movements in these countries are positioning their relatively wealthy states as armed bunkers," Naomi Klein writes. She's also professor of climate justice at the University of British Columbia, founding co-director of the UBC Center for Climate Justice. Her latest book, Doppelganger, A Trip into the Mirror World. Naomi, welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. If you can start off by talking about your piece and what exactly you mean by talking about the end times, fascism.
Well, it's very good to be with you, Amy. This isn't the most cheerful piece I've ever written, with Astra Taylor, a very close collaborator, founder of the Debt Collective. And we were trying to kind of map what is similar and what is different about the type of far-right politics that we're seeing today. And I should say the piece is not only grim, it also looks at what this can mean for a response to this particular form of fascism, because we can't fight it if we don't understand it. So I think a lot of very good scholarship attempting to understand authoritarianism today, whether it's Trump or figures like Duterte or Modi, have looked at similarities between these far-right figures and, say, Mussolini or Hitler, and have taken a kind of a checklist approach of looking at what is similar to the past, right? And I think there's a lot of value in that, but the risk of it is that it doesn't look at what is new and what is particular to our time. Fascism always is an attempt by the right to resolve a crisis of its own era, right? So in the 1930s, they were attempting to resolve, in Germany, the humiliations of the First World War, the impacts of the Great Depression, and to propose a unity in the face of that, for the in-group. But our moment is different, and one of the things that makes it different, if you think about fascism in the 1930s, this is before the atomic bomb. It's before they understood climate change. And we are in a moment where our elites, whether they admit it or not, do understand that our economic model, and I've written books about this and talked about it with you in the past, is at war with life on Earth, right? And they are barreling down this road of more and more extraction of fossil fuels, of all kinds of, basically anything they can extract from this earth and turn into energy and money, particularly now with AI, which is a energy and resource hog, water, LNG, critical minerals, all of it. So we're trying to understand how this is informing the kind of fascism that we're seeing. And also, we're trying to understand what unites this kind of strange Frankenstein coalition that Trump represents, where he's bringing together these, the richest people in the world who have ever existed with, many working class people. So what binds the vision, right? And what we come up with in this piece, or what we propose in this piece, is that they all have given up on this world. Like they all have bought into a kind of apocalyptic fever, right? Whether it's
okay. So let me. So what you're seeing is what you are experiencing now with these billionaires. You have to understand this low frequency entity known as Lucifer, the devil, Diablo. This is their money. They created this monetary system. And so they are fearful that they're about to lose control. And that's why they trying to get Burkina Faso killed, and they're doing the things that they're doing. It's a desperation of people that, this fascism, they're gathering they're gathering and they're working on creating an end time scenario while they take your resources and they go off and they develop. They're going to build some islands and go and buy little countries and that kind of thing to run away, because they know that the illusion, in the Wizard of Oz, when his game was exposed, what did he do? He got a balloon and got out of Dodge. Well, they're doing the same thing, So, once again, for all you educated people with your college degrees and all that, hey, you got hooked, went bamboozled, and led astray. So I know you are sitting back. A lot of you were sitting back. Oh, maybe they'll kill Burkina Faso like they did. What's the guy in
Gaddafi?
Gaddafi. But now this brother is being embraced because I'm sending my spiritual frequency to protect him as well. And even here in the United States, a lot of you educated people still sitting back. Well, I hope Andre Hill shut up. Him and his crew, they quit exposing us. Because I'm doing good. I'm doing good as an individual. With this European system. But you only a small percentage. So I know you kind of sitting back. All of you should be out there buying a copy of our book, because the resources from my book is going to build our own banks. It's going to get our own networks, because there was a video that I wanted to play today about a CIA agent, operative, admitting that they contaminated the vaccines with the AIDS virus and sent it to Africa. He admitted that. And so what happened? I sent that video out to about 5 of our collective, and it disappeared. It disappeared from all of them. And so, we need our own networks. We need our own industry. We need things to demonstrate we're taking control of our destiny. Is there one more video, man?
No.
Okay. All right. So on that note, I think we've covered everything. This young lady, Naomi Klein, and the Doppler ganger. Let me explain something to you about that. The Doppler ganger is a situation where when an individual get out there and profess that they want to do right by people. The low frequency entities create a mirror image. They'll even use names. Now, this is for our advanced metaphysical. They'll use the same scenario and similar names to divert or discredit those individuals and the message that they're putting out there. And case in point, I was sitting watching some videos one time, some movies, and what happened was I watched the Rosemary Baby movie, and something told me, go look at it. I said, I don't want to watch that crap. Said something, I said, no, go watch it. I watched it. And I came in on the tail end of the Rosemary movie. And the baby, who was supposed to be Satan's child, had something wrong with his eyes, but the baby's name was Adrian. And it struck a chord with me, I'm saying, like, damn, I forgot about that. That was very close to my name. And the mother's name, of course, was Rosemary. My mother's name was Mary Ann, And so here, these individuals, these beings, they have advanced technology. They know who's going to be part of the paradigm shift, and they try to discredit them in any way they can. So only certain advanced metaphysical scientists understand what I just said about that doppelganger concept and how it applies to other humans. But I'm gonna go ahead and land that plane. Chairman, you want to give your closing thoughts on this thing and tell them how to find your book?
Well, my book, titled God's Child, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and my website, www.godschildren.biz. And very interesting read. Some people have read it in one day. It's about 140 pages. And if you want to, get a concept of how we basically come to planet Earth, read this book. It's very simple, very easy to understand. Even my grandchildren have read the book. So, help my cause out so I can turn this book into a motion picture so people can see our way out of this dilemma that we're in. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to pass the ball on to Andre Hill Jr. And hey, man, what's your closing thoughts on all of this? And tell them how they can get in touch with us. And also, I didn't get, I had a little disruption. I wanted to say to people that did not get these college degrees and get divided in that madness, and they are technicians, plumbers, electricians, and just laymen, people that they even graduate from high school. You have value. You have great value, but this system was designed to beat you down. All of you should be out there trying to find out how y'all can get a copy of this book so that we can start building an infrastructure to create a different future for our children. But go ahead, man. Tell them how to get in touch with us and remind them how to find the book.
Yeah, find the book at lucifersrevenge.net. lucifersrevenge.net, no apostrophe. Just type in lucifersrevenge.net. And reach out to us at uaarlife@gmail.com. uaarlife@gmail.com. We 4 minutes past the hour. We'll go ahead and close this thing on up. I think it's been a pretty good show. But this has been the Straight Talk Network, and we love y'all as always. And peace out. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Conversation piece.